Oh, so yeah, so then I'll give you about a 2-hour work time kind of throughout the middle of the day, and I will be available for that the entire time, and I'll be happy to help you in any way I can, often maybe breakout rooms. Clifton, welcome. Welcome to our class here. Let's see if I have you here. Let me jump back into my group attendance. Clifton, yes, there you are. Can you jump on, Clifton, and introduce yourself to the group, please?
Yes, Professor. Good morning to you. I'm Clifton Roye, hailing from Dominica. I'm a teacher at the Dominica Grammar School. That's a secondary school located in the heart of Roseau, the capital of Dominica.
Nice.
And I'm looking forward to this course, which will be a further enhancement of my skills learned last year where I did the introduction to the Google Suite. And I'm hoping to do great things with you.
Wonderful. Glad to have you. Glad you can make it. So this is kind of the general orientation here, and then probably for about an hour at the end of the day, I'm going to connect with you guys, do some reflections, answer questions, and then depending on how things go, I'll probably be modifying this as we go. My personal feelings around technology is that it's an endless pit. And the last thing you should ever feel is that you're not doing a good job. I really, over the years, have felt like anything I do is just moving it forward, helping my students as I can. And one thing's for sure is you have to keep it manageable because it's such an endless pit of being able to go on forever. And I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to feel like you're just gaining some skills and you're just creating one learning experience at a time, and you're just continuing to build on it. So please, if I'm going too fast, stop me, raise your hand. If you want me to explain anything along the way, I'd be happy to. I'm not trying to go fast. I've certainly, I've been teaching. We have a one-to-one Chromebook environment in my school. So every student has a Chromebook in their hand, and all day long if we want them to. And so, I've been working this way for about 8 years now. And so, some of this stuff, just becomes, old hat to me. So I'm certainly not trying to go too fast. But I'm sure I could probably just start going on and on without realizing I might be losing you. So I have no desire to do that at all. I just want to work with you and help you be able to, really, take hold of the Google Apps and be able to make them work for you. Okay, so that's really my goal here. All right. I'm hoping to get at least one volunteer. I was hoping to put together, what is it called, the WhatsApp group. So I'm hoping to get a volunteer who'd be willing to do that, and maybe if that's possible, then I thank you. I have a volunteer, Shanice. I would really appreciate that. But it does, I guess, require that you guys are all okay with me sharing your guys' emails with her and phone numbers. Is that okay if...
It's okay. Not
Is
a
that all
problem.
right? Wonderful.
Yeah.
If there's someone here who does not want me to do that, and it would mean that I probably add you to the group separately, but I think with WhatsApp, you'd probably be able to see the phone number. So I don't want to mess with anybody's privacy by any means, but if you don't want me to, please throw it in the chat there, and I would be happy to leave you out of the group, okay? At least that way, I have my phone with me at all times, and that way, even when, I probably... do you have a question, Clifton? Feel free to jump in. And by the way, just call me Henry. I'm happy to be informal.
I was just saying that I'm in agreement.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I have my phone with me most of the day. I mean, I'm hoping that I probably will, when class is over, I'm probably not going to make myself available unless there's some kind of an emergency. But other than that, I would really love that to be able to make it easy for you guys to connect with me. Okay. The second thing there is, I understand it's customary. By the way, I teach in a Christian school as well. It's Trinity Christian School. I am a Christian. I understand that I understand 90% of Dominicans are, and it's customary to have a morning devotion. It's customary in my school too, so it's very, very common for this to happen. But I would like your guys' help with that. Would you guys be willing to sign up and volunteer? I'm actually share a link with you guys here. I'm going to be sharing, this document with you guys here, and I'm hoping you guys will be able to sign up. I'm going to just put the link to this in the chat there, so you guys can make sure you have editor access to this. All right. Spell it Devo. Okay. If you guys could jump into that assignment there and then just sign up. I understand you guys are, and I'm willing to be flexible here. It might just be as a prayer. It could be maybe a song. It could be, a little devotional, whatever you guys want it to be. I'm very flexible there. Just invite God into our gathering, and which is apparently customary. And today I'm hoping I'll be happy to do it for us this morning with a prayer. But I'd like you guys to jump in there and just, if you guys would be willing to lead one of those in whatever capacity you want. I'm doing Monday here, so you guys could potentially start on Tuesday and just put your name in there whenever you want. And that doesn't have to happen right now, but hopefully just by the end of the day for Tuesday anyway. So feel free to do that. Okay. I'll give you guys a moment to jump in and do that. The next thing I want to share with you guys here as you populate that is just a slideshow. I'll call it the Devo slideshow. And, I have almost no expectations here around what you're creating. Maybe I'll show it to you real quick. I just call it the 2021 Daily Devotional. If you notice on the left-hand side there, Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, kind of just putting each day, whichever day you signed up. You can literally not populate this. You can do this however you want. Some people, might want to grab a YouTube video that has a devotional song perhaps, and you could link it in there if you know how. You could literally do nothing on there and just come in and pray and read a devotional. I'm leaving it entirely up to you what you want to do. I'm actually more interested in your own inspiration rather than what I could produce. I'm more interested in people than I am show. So please, this is only a potential resource for you. If you did populate this, then I would just bring this up, or you would be able to bring this up and share your screen and do it how you will. I believe you guys would know how to add slides if you wanted to add more. You just go onto the right hand side here, you could literally just say duplicate slide there, and then you would have 2 slides, and on you go if you needed more. Anyway, so that's just a resource for you guys if you're interested, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, jumping back here. Wonderful, almost totally populated. Hopefully as more of our students come into the course, they will have a chance to do that as well. Okay, all right, jumping to the next thing. Learning approaches. This is definitely meant to be synchronous, certainly for 4 hours, and asynchronous when you're not in the class. Some of my assignments that I have planned for you guys could take years to complete, literally years. Particularly a few of them that I've planned for you are things that I do on a regular basis, and I just build upon. Maybe not daily, but I build upon it, especially in this last year with COVID, and particularly in Canada, we had to send our students home. But for here, that meant that classes just continued online, just like we are doing right now. All of our students would just, because we're a one-on-one Chromebook environment, students just took the Chromebooks home. They all have internet access at home, and then I'd be teaching like this with them for weeks at a time. And so, maybe if one of you wants to jump in, what was this environment like for you guys during COVID? How did that affect education for you guys?
Well, my children were not used to using the internet. They were not used to being on computers. And at the time when we returned, when we were allowed to bring children back to school, I was in June. Was it in June or May, somewhere there? We had to give priority to the grade 6 children because they had to do the national assessment. So my children really did not get chances to finish or to do any real work that I had posted. And so what we were doing in the meantime, we were doing weekly packages of photocopying worksheets and stuff for them. And my children, seeing that I was not there to force them to work, they hardly did anything. They did not do the stuff, and they were not bringing them in. What they reverted to was the homework, all the homework assignments I had given them first term that they had not done, and second term, because they actually had the books, so they preferred writing in their books, in their workbooks, than keeping track of the worksheets that I had printed, or even doing the worksheets and bringing them to school. So I had to be correcting a lot of books.
Right.
During the time that I should have been collecting the worksheets that I had photocopied for them. So
right.
It was kind of challenging for me that they really did not get anything during that time.
Yeah,
and they could not come to the school during the summer because it was not allowed. The ministry had not given us any permission to have classes at that time. And when we opened in September, then persons, although they were interested in having extra lessons, but the supervisors and so on did not think it was necessary. So they really lacked a whole term, maybe a term and a half of information.
Right.
And so they went up to grade 5, not having the prerequisites that they were supposed to have.
Right. So it's more like a big gap in learning for kids for the most part. Yeah. I think here too, there's a lot of gaps for students, particularly the high school students. I have a son in high school. They found it very challenging at the pace of learning for high school to be able to do it online. That's for sure. I think our students generally in the lower grades didn't have such a hard time. But that makes a lot of sense if you can't actually connect with them. It sounds to me like there's not a lot of technology at home in homes. Is that accurate?
Yes, you're accurate. And then we had a lot of internet problems at the school. So where I would have left my home to do the summer program online at the school because the internet would have been powerful and constant. Right now, I have to be having significantly lower internet broadband stuff because my home is not the same. The fiber network that I have, it's not the same as the school. The school
Right.
is much stronger and much better, and so my internet just keeps going down and up and down and up, and down. It just cuts off completely, so I have to re-enter and all kind of different things. So I can't really go to the school right now because we have that internet problem.
Right.
There was some kind of fire on a pole, and I don't think that was ever 100% solved. So we kind of down to one router in only one
Right.
area of the school instead of 4 routers. So
Yeah,
I
that
really
makes it really tough.
have
Yeah.
all the computers cannot access, do not connect to it. So
Right. So is that kind of the norm around Dominica in regards to access? So students, I guess my question is, would students mostly be able to access this technology at schools? Would they be able to access it at home during the week?
I think it's maybe the parents who are working, those who are more privileged, I think. Yeah, because in my class it's only one child,
Right.
and I have 10 children, and some of the other classes have more children. I think maybe to the younger ones, maybe might have access. That's the younger because they have younger parents,
Right.
and the parents would have phones, so they would do everything on the phones.
Right.
But when it comes to the older ones, where their parents have to work, and then they would have to go with the phones at work, then there is hardly anything for them to do. So they would be on the streets or wherever, God knows.
Right. Okay, jumping forward, in regards to you guys as my students, though, oh, apparently I have an alarm clock going off. Just 1 second. I apologize. For you guys, I am a little bit flexible with, due dates in regards to this course. If I will be setting, kind of discussing due dates with you guys. And like I was saying, like one of my assignments, you're just going to be getting started on, and hopefully it's something valuable to you that you're just going to continue to build upon as you teach over the years. So there is no completion date on that one, but in regards to, creating something that I can grade, you will be needed to, get it to some point where I can see, your thinking and your creative abilities with the G Suite apps. But ultimately, if you need more time, I understand, many of you will probably end up doing some of this work outside of our class, even though I'm giving you a fair bit of time to do so inside the class. But talk to me. If you need some flexibility, I'd be happy to work something out. As long as everything gets completed by the end of the course, that would be wonderful. Okay. We need to talk a little bit about classroom norms. What does our daily gatherings look like? So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to share this link with you guys. And I'm going to open this course up, or this, are you guys we're going to use a new tool called a Jamboard. This is your chance to do something at this point. I'm going to share this with you in the chat stream there. And you guys will have editing privileges here. Okay, this is called the Jamboard. And here's the link. So just click into that. And I want to know what kind of norms you guys want to work with. And I guess what I mean is, and this is, I think you can see it now. There you go. What I mean is what do you guys want our classroom kind of atmosphere to be like? What are the do's and potentially, it's probably better if we we say this in the form of the positive, you know, what would you like to have in regards to how we treated one another in this classroom, so that we can create some classroom norms. For example, one of mine is definitely cameras. You know, should cameras be on? Can we have cameras on? I don't know, bandwidth may be an issue. I can totally understand that. Some of my students, when I was teaching online, their homes had mums and dads working at home. Even right now, my wife is working at home here. And so bandwidth can be an issue from time to time. You know, should we have cameras on? So anyway, so all you got to do, jump to the right-hand side there. This is a sticky note right there. You just click on this guy, and then, you know, cameras, spell cameras, on would be my question. And then you can throw a different color in there and then move them around as you will, even size-wise. You know, what are some of the norms you guys would like to work with in this class? I like that. Cameras on while speaking. I like that. It helps me get to know you a little better. When you say liabilities for actions, do you mean having some kind of a consequence? Is that what you mean? Yeah, cameras on when possible. I like that. And this is a discussion for me. I definitely am interested in this being, you know, co-created. So I'm very interested in your opinions here. Listen to each other respectfully. Yeah, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah, listen to respect that everyone work at a different place. Well said. I really appreciate that. You know, we're all going to be at a different place in this class, and I definitely want to be able to you know, adjust even my assignments related to your perspective. Like some of the things I create are definitely related to grade 7 students, but for example, if you're a grade 1 teacher, you know, I don't want you to do a grade 7 assignment for grade 1 students. No, I want you to adapt what I'm speaking about to your teaching context. I want you to create things you're definitely going to use. Be punctual. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that too. I do understand that you know, connectivity issues can be a problem. I understand in Dominica. But you know, just try our best for sure. Yeah, very interactive sessions. Yeah, I get a lot of life out of the interaction with my students for sure, and I really appreciate that as well. Yeah, microphone should be muted when you're not speaking. Absolutely, I appreciate that as well. And you know, if as things go on, I definitely am willing to add to this. But this is great stuff. I really appreciate that. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. Perfect. Okay. I'm definitely willing to work with this. This is fantastic for me. Love it. All right. Let's jump back into the regular class here. A couple of things that I threw down, you know, communication to me. I am very happy to be, you know, raise your hand or whatever in the midst of my teaching. I want to know what you're thinking. And if you have questions, I want to clarify them, you know, within reason. Please stop me. I want to help you so that it's in your context for sure. If you ever have questions, I do tend to have this chat box on the right-hand side of the Google Meet. I tend to have that open the whole time. So if you want to throw a question in there or something, please feel free to do that. I'm happy to do that. Or the WhatsApp, that'd be fine too. Yeah, and the mic muted part. You should bookmark this, you know, my stuff. I'll talk about that a little bit more, about how to bookmark and how to use bookmarks more effectively. I use them extensively just to try and save me time. And I'll show you what that looks like later. And I'm a big believer in the social construction of knowledge. I think people learn a lot better when they have a chance to be able to talk ideas through, kind of think out loud. My wife has helped me to maximize this skill. My wife, big communicator, and my family not so much when I grew up, but I've been married for 21 years, and we definitely, our marriage is built on social construction of our conversations and what we think and putting that out there. And so I love to teach that way. And so I want to hear what you think and your thoughts about what we're doing. So, just be ready to jump in with your thoughts and ideas, and I welcome them. I appreciate them a lot. Okay. And, last line there, participate with abandon, meaning, I definitely want you to enjoy the course and get a lot out of it and get a lot of learning out of it. So hopefully that's the case. All right. So if there's any questions, I'll just move on. So coming back to what I said before, some of you actually got here, with Google, the possibilities are endless. And so I think I certainly went through a stage early on where I felt like a little overwhelmed, or a lot overwhelmed by Google and the possibilities. And that's not my desire. My desire is really just to have you enjoy the platform and figuring out ways to help your students be able to connect and learn. And this gives you a lot more flexibility. So hopefully we can create some good learning environments, and talk with me if you're getting overwhelmed or issues or whatever. I'm happy to have conversations about that. And I really only care that you bring your try. And there's lots of work to be done throughout this course, but at the same time, I'm not expecting perfection or mastery knowledge in any sense. I don't even consider myself to have mastery knowledge. I'm just on the journey of getting to know things, and there's plenty of things I don't know, really. Whenever I get together with other people who teach like I do, it continues to surprise me what I don't know, even though I've been doing this for many, many years. Don't feel like you have to know it all. None of us do. And I think the biggest thing is with Google really is explore, be willing to press buttons and see what they do, and just, there's always an undo button in Google. I love that. You try something, it didn't work, well then undo it, no big deal. So try new things and just see what happens. Okay. All right. So jumping a little bit forward into this, I'm a big believer in learning by doing. So I certainly want to have part of this course be where you guys are doing it along with me. So that's why I request that you guys have Chromebooks or computers, so that as I'm teaching you, you can literally do this as I'm showing you how to do it. I will have daily projects and reflection questions, and I talked about our start and end time earlier on. There are a lot of apps that we're going to be using. There's a lot of little ones that I think have value, but really understanding the big ones is probably where I'll spend most of my time. And later on in the course, I will show you some smaller things, but initially we're definitely going to focus on the big ones, and certainly how I use them and leverage that with helping my students to have good learning experiences and support. So lots there. And frankly, I don't doubt for one second that you guys have some really interesting ways to use this technology, and I'm hoping to learn some of that along the way as well. First off, know your bookmarks bar. So we're going to jump right in here. A couple of things. Bookmarks bar, I might need to share my screen in a different way, because right now, I don't know if you guys are aware, I'm going to have you guys later on share your screen in a Google Meet like this too. Sound comes through when it's shared as a tab, which is what it is right now. It's shared as a tab. But if you share it as a window, which is what I'm going to do here in a second, then sound does not come through. So I've learned that the hard way with my students showing videos, and when I shared it the wrong way, they couldn't hear anything I did. So I'm going to share this, share my entire screen here, and so that you can see the buttons I'm pressing and all that kind of stuff as well. Okay, so there, now you can see my entire window. So bookmarks bar, and I'd like you to do this on your computers even right now as we're doing this. First off, the bookmark bar is this thing right here, and I'm actually new to the ministry's email, so my bookmarks are not as extensive at this point as they otherwise would be, but you know, it's building as it goes. These three dots on the top right-hand side, hopefully you guys can see my mouse there. I call that the snowman, just because it's three dots on top of each other. And maybe I'm a Canadian, maybe this is a Canadian thing. I don't know. A lot of people I know call it the snowman, so call it whatever you will. But there's bookmarks, and you should certainly have your show bookmarks bar clicked so that it's available to you. And there's a couple of things I'd like you guys to just shortcut right away. First off being our Google Classroom. I'd like you to open a tab and then bookmark it. And the easiest way to bookmark it is to grab that little, can you see that little lock, I guess? If I'm on the Google Classroom and I grab that lock and I drag it, I can literally just put it right in my bookmarks bar by dragging anything from there into my bookmarks bar. So I'd like you to do that one. I'm going to share with you guys our website. It's right here. I'm going to put it into our chat. Okay. I'm going to be posting everything I create. Maybe not everything, because that's extensive amount of work, but most of it. Certainly my PowerPoints, my videos, and resources, you're going to find them there. You should open that in a tab and then do the same thing. Drag it down into there. Okay, so that you guys have it in the bookmarks bar, and then you can navigate everything very quickly. Some common things that I will always have my email.
Hey, Henry.
Yes,
Excuse me.
Clifton.
Could you go a bit slower in giving your instructions?
Sure.
And
absolutely.
could you repeat the last instruction? Where to go to the tab and drag it across?
Correct. So right now, as you can see me, I am in my website that I created for you guys, and hopefully it works for you guys. So all you have to do, once you're on that tab and you want it to become a bookmark, you just find that little lock. And I know it's kind of small there. I don't have the ability with Google to enlarge it, but yeah, it's a little lock there. You just click and drag it. So if you can see what I'm doing, you can literally put it wherever you want to put it into that bar, and then it appears there. Okay. And so another quick note with this as well is you can now right click, you know, or I guess if you're on a Chromebook, that might be I'm not on a Chromebook, I'm on a PC, but we use Chromebooks all the time. It might be a control click. I forget what it is exactly on a right click is on a Chromebook exactly. But you can get this menu that comes up, and then you can edit it, right? And the beauty about editing it is that you can then get rid of the word or change the title. I actually don't like titles in there. I'm a very visual person, so I get rid of the title entirely. And then notice here, each of these words here, if I right click and edit, I'm just literally getting rid of the words, and it just becomes a little picture. It just ends up meaning that I can actually have a lot more things visible for me on my bookmarks bar, and then populate this a lot more. Okay, so yes, I'd like you to put some of these main things on your bookmarks bar so you can navigate with me very quickly. Okay.
Henry?
Yep.
The site is saying access denied. We need permission to enter the site.
Okay, thanks for telling me. I'm wondering if I may not have published it yet. So hopefully, yeah, publish. Let's try it now. Did it work? I'm hoping it's available for anybody in anybody in the ministry. That's my hope.
It's saying the same thing.
It's still locked?
Yes.
Okay, so clearly I still have things to learn about this. I just won't be able to figure that out right now. I will make this available to you. I'll figure it out
Go
today.
to publish site. Go to the
Pardon me?
publish button. Go to the publish button.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, go to the settings, not the publish button, the settings. And
Yeah, I want it to be for all of you guys. It's definitely in your ministry.
I know it. Go to
I know.
the add
Maybe.
person sign symbol thing. Not that, the other one.
This one?
Yes. Go to link.
Yeah, maybe it's this one.
Yes, that one.
I think it's this one. You're right. It is this one. Does it work now?
Yes, it does.
Perfect.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate your help. This is a community solution. I actually
Quick question,
sure.
Henry, how do I get to this site?
I put the link in the chat here.
Okay.
So just open up the chat there. Now, personally, I've become a big fan of Google Sites very recently. I'm not an expert at it by any means, but I've become a very big fan, and I'm hoping to turn you into a big fan as well. It'll be one of your assignments, particularly when it comes to student portfolios and having students be able to make their work visible. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay. Any questions about the bookmarks bar? So the couple of things I wanted you guys to get our Google Classroom, make that one of your links. Your Google Drive, I'm pretty sure each of you knows what a Google Drive is. This is your Google Drive. And so same thing, just create a tab, open it up, grab that lock and drag it in, and then, make that stuff easier for you that way. I'm just getting rid of the names in these things because I don't like having names. As little as possible anyway. They just take up too much space. There you go. It starts getting a lot smaller, as you can see, as I'm doing it. All right. Is everybody good to go there? One little...
Do you right click or something?
Yeah, you literally right click on the link. Once you drag it over, right click on it, and on a Chromebook, I guess it's a control click or something like that. And then the word edit comes up. And then you just hit that edit, and then you can change the name or delete it or make it shorter, whatever your preference is. And that way you can put a lot more things in there. And maybe I can throw out with you guys here too, real quick, is when you go to the snowman here and then bookmarks bar, there's another choice there called Bookmarks Manager. I might return to this a little bit later on tomorrow. Just to build on this and have one more review of this. But open up this Bookmarks Manager and you can create folders. I'm a big fan of folders in my bookmarks bar. Right now these guys are empty, but it basically creates a drop-down menu so that you can have a lot more links, essentially. If I could show you my ministry, Palliser's, where I work, my Google Palliser ministry account. Oh, I've got drop-down menus within drop-down menus, and it's my quick way of navigating everything I want in very short amount of time. So, this is a big time saver for me, and I recommend that you play with this and get used to it. It definitely is helpful. Okay, anytime I find any website that I find helpful to me, I end up bookmarking it and putting it inside a folder within a folder. So notice here I have like a math folder here and a science folder. You can you can click and drag these. At least you should be able to. There you go. It's not going very fast, but I don't know, maybe my internet connection isn't very fast here with everything I'm doing. But you should be able to move them around. Certainly from up here, you can drag them in your bookmarks bar to wherever you want to have them. And then from there, when you open them here, you can have a a folder within a folder. So notice my math here. If I click on it, it has math and then unit 1. So I click here, math unit 1. And if I had something in there, I can have folders within folders within folders endlessly if you want. And that basically makes your bookmarks bar really, valuable for helping you navigate things. So hopefully I've convinced you, because I use this thing extensively all the time. Okay. Any questions about bookmarks? So yeah, what would you like to have? I think you should definitely have your email as a bookmark shortcut, the G Suite, the website, and your Google Drive. And then from there on, everything we do, you might end up having a bookmarking it so that you can easily navigate to everything we do. Okay. All right. And I will certainly try to make everything I'm creating for you guys available either in the Google Classroom or in that website. Okay. All right. Jump into the next thing. Oh, and that's me giving you a little tutorial on exactly what I just talked about for those people who are not here. Okay, so Google Meet attendance. A couple of things that I have definitely used in the past is Google Meet attendance collector. And so so we just want to kind of figure out a few things there. Like if you click on this, are you guys familiar with Chrome Web Store?
Yeah.
Good, good. You certainly should become familiar with it. This is one extension when I was online. I used a lot Google Meet attendance. I don't have it added right now, but if you ever did online, you would use this one. It sounds to me like that doesn't happen a whole lot with you guys, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Another one that I use a lot is this one, which is Google Meet Push to Talk. I think it basically makes it so that you press your space bar and it mutes and unmutes your Meet essentially, so that it's a little bit easier. I think in the last little while Google Meet might have made this automatic. Let me test it right now actually. No, didn't work. Okay, I don't know. No, it didn't work for me. Yeah, you guys can still hear me. Anyway, it makes it so your space bar can be used. So if you add that,
Yeah, it works for me, but I have to keep my finger on the space bar for the microphone to stay on.
Right.
And whenever I release the space bar, it goes off.
Exactly. It's a helpful little tool if that works for you. And this one, I actually haven't used this one personally. A friend of mine says this is wonderful. If I actually work with 2 monitors every day, so I don't actually use this tool. But for my students in particular who have only 1 monitor and they want to split their screen, this is a quick little add-on that creates an extension button here on the top right. I don't have it added right now, but it basically, notice in the picture in the bottom there, it splits your screen into 2. If you are only dealing with 1 monitor, then that works really well. I guess if you don't want to add an extension, another way to do that is you can literally just grab a tab and then pull it to the side. Hopefully you guys can see this. I think you're still watching my screen. You guys disappeared for me.
Yeah.
And then you can, put your windows side by side. Did that work for you guys? Can you see that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that even works really well because a part of my screen disappeared for you guys. So trying to get you guys back. No, just 1 second. There we go. Got you guys back. Perfect. Okay. So that is the workaround. Like I said, I don't use it, but you are welcome if you're dealing with 1 screen to work through that. Okay. Are you guys familiar at all with with the Google Certified Educator program?
No.
I am.
Okay, Joan, a few of you are. This is essentially Google has, level 1 educator, level 2 educator. I think they even go up to level 3. I don't even have my level 1 yet. I've thought about doing it many times, but essentially you can get training from Google. Well, they don't, once you do the learning, you can take a test and essentially get your Google certified level 1. If you use Google extensively, this is actually not that hard. This is kind of their checklist on all the different things you can learn. I'll be referring to this, regularly throughout our course about all the different things I'm teaching you. So this is what I'm referring to essentially is this Google certified training program. I think it's a good program to be in, but be aware you're doing a lot of the learning on your own. You're just kind of seeing what the checklist is, and these are the things they test you in the test. I think it costs a little bit of money to do the test every time you write. My friend did it recently. I think he was saying it was like $25 or Canadian or something like that. Not a crazy amount of money, but a little bit of money. And so basically you're going through showing them that you can do all of those items. And so I'll share this with you guys if that interests you. There's a website, but I'll be referring to that from time to time. Okay, and essentially these are the Google Meet certifications that are possible and that you need to be able to know how to do essentially. But they're not hard, and you'll probably be able to do all of this stuff by the end of our course if you don't know already. Probably do know already. Anyway, you guys should all be in my Google Classroom. This is my code. I think I want to do just a quick little check, actually, just to make sure. I just want to make sure that I do have all of you guys in there. This is how I'm going to be grading you guys. So I want to make sure you guys have accepted and jumped in there. And I think with you guys, 13, yeah, there's 13 in our meet, and I have all 13 of you. Perfect. Okay. All right. And so that's no problem. Have you guys used Google Classroom very much? Should I spend?
Yep, we have.
You have? So this is something you guys are very familiar with. Is that right?
Yep.
Kind of, yeah.
Great. I will show you a few tips and tricks, but I won't spend the day going through all the details of it. I won't treat you like beginners, I guess, is what I'm saying. Okay. And so you guys hopefully have this link already. And then that gets us to Google Slides. So this is leading to our first assignment today. I guess I do want you guys' feedback a little bit. Are you guys familiar with Google Slides? How much detail do I need to go into it? Should I treat you guys like beginners and just go quickly, or?
I can't answer for everybody, but I am familiar with Google Slides.
Okay.
Henry, I think you should take your time with some of us.
Okay, fair enough. That's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go into our first assignment is basically going to be using Google Slides. In my opinion, Google Slides and Google Docs are probably what I use the most, by far what I use the most. And you should definitely, this is, the two tools, Google Slides and Google Docs are probably the biggest tools that you will use. And so get very familiar with them. But yeah, I will start at the beginning because we are definitely a lot of people at different places. So all you need to do is actually just go to your Google Drive. And then, if in my opinion, you should probably create a folder, right? This is how I would do things because I'm big into keeping organized. If I don't keep organized, I lose things and I can't find them. So, give it a name, maybe name our course, Google with Class. Okay. And then inside that folder, we're going to create a Google slide. Okay. And you can click on it right there to create it. Okay. And so again, A lot of this stuff to me is a little bit old hat. So I really appreciate when you guys slow down, ask questions. I have no desire to go faster than we can go. All right. Practice. Okay. So first thing I would probably say is, you know, I end up creating a lot of presentations for my students. In my school, we do have, you know, smart boards, and I'm often presenting to students. But I'm trying to move away from presenting to students to actually creating interactive learning experiences. But for the purposes of, you know, starting at the beginning, you want to be able to know how to create, you know, just a Google presentation, essentially. So starting here, present button, right? This essentially creates, there's nothing here right now, but that makes it so that you can show your students what you're doing, okay? The plus button on the left-hand side here, these are all the different choices you have of slides you produce. And as soon as you click one, probably title and body is the one that people will use most. Ends up being, you know, you're putting your title here, right? And then the body would be here. But everything, of course, is editable. If I could type, right? Any squares in the corner you can move. You can certainly use this little circle toggle to turn your text, whatever you like. And essentially, you can create all kinds of different slides there. And even a slide you can create, you can manipulate. Okay. Here's our redo undo button. I use those probably a lot. So get familiar with those. I make lots of mistakes, and then I quickly fix them with my undo button. Printing makes good sense. Paint format, I don't think I actually hardly ever use this tool. So if you find a good purpose for it, you know, you go for it. The zoom hopefully is pretty straightforward. You can make things the size you want it to be so you can see it a little bit better. I probably use 100% most often. And then the pointer tool just makes it so you can manipulate objects and be able to, you know, do what you need to do with the manipulation of that. The little T here is a text box tool. You can always create a new text box, of course. And if we can just jump on that for a little bit, a lot of other tools are helpful here. I often put boxes around my text boxes. Of course, you can type in them. But then I often change the color of the text box window. I often will change the background in text boxes. And that's just that little painting tool. Again, I'm hoping that you definitely have one of these things open right now and are playing with it. I'm a big believer in, you know, doing. And if you just hear somebody, then I would never learn it. I'd have to do it. That's for sure. I'm often changing the background color of things. And then, you know, you can certainly change the lines that surround the border. I don't really play with that very often. I'm usually just either have a line or I don't have a line. But, you know, I teach grade 7, not grade 1 or grade 2. So in your context, it might become very valuable to you. Okay. And then, of course, when I'm in that text box, you know, font sizes, I love playing with different fonts. And there's lots of fonts that I use regularly that are actually not in the normal font palette here. A lot of these I never use, but I do use, I think it's Laundrina Solid and Laundrina Sketch. I use that one, those two extensively, but we'll all have our favorites. And definitely get familiar with this More Font button. If you click on that guy there, you have a lot more choices about what kind of fonts you want to incorporate into your PowerPoint. And all you have to do is click on it, and then it'll be in it. So if you find some here that you like, for example, this dancing script, it will then populate the right-hand side here, and then it'll be available to you when you hit OK at the bottom. Okay? All right. Give everybody a chance to just play with that a little bit, and then I'll move on. So notice I have dancing script there now. And then, you know, the numbers there, make it bigger, smaller, bold, italics, underline. Those are probably pretty straightforward. I definitely use the highlighting tool from time to time. And of course, turning it off and on is transparent is turning it off. So if you end up highlighting it like so, and then you end up highlighting it green or something, you can definitely use the undo button. But if you were to want to get rid of that in a different way, then you would have to hit transparent for it to go away, if that makes sense. Okay? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Not too fast, I hope?
No.
Please. Okay, good. And here's one of the biggest tools that I use extensively is this little link button. I am forever embedding links around the web into text boxes or into text or into pictures or even GIFs for that matter. And so in this course, I'm hoping you become very familiar with this little button here. And what I mean essentially is, for example, if I had any website, maybe even this welcome letter, this is called a URL, Universal something locator. I forget exactly what it means, but I often call it a URL, which really just is the link to a website. But highlighting it, I use Control-C keyboard shortcuts. I always use Control-C for copy rather than right-clicking and saying copy, which you definitely can do. I don't care which way people do it. But essentially, then you can take any text, just highlight the text, and then click on the link, and then paste. Paste into that text. And that is essentially the word it's called is embedding. Here, Carla, maybe we should just put on your mute there. Thanks. And that's called embedding. And when you hit apply, it essentially makes that those words a link. And I'll be asking you guys to do that quite a bit from time to time. And this is essentially the welcome letter that I sent to all of your ministry email accounts. And so you can embed, and that's probably one of the more powerful tools in anything that we do here at Google, is you can embed links into text, into a text box, into a picture, and it could take you anywhere. And that's the real power of all of what we're doing here. And I'll show you as we go how I use that extensively. Okay, so that's a big one. All right, so if I'm also continuing on here, of course, this comment tool, you guys notice I have a little M there. This is Moat. I'll talk about that a little bit later. It basically makes it so that I can actually speak into here for a few seconds and it'll put my words there. Okay, but I won't deal with that right now. And it makes a link to it so kids you can talk to kids and they can hear your voice rather than you typing it all out. It's a big time saver. But so that's adding a comment to anything. You just highlight it, you click on it, and then you hit this comment tool, and then you can comment about it essentially for kids. Okay, but we'll get into that more later. Left orient, center, right, or this spreads it out. If it's in a text box here, you can make these words go in the middle. You can make them go at the bottom. However you want that to appear. I'm most often just having it on the top left there. Okay, and then spacing. I'm often moving spacing around. Most often I'm using single. I don't change it unless I need to. But you can custom space it too, keep in mind, where you can, make this be whatever you want it to be, so that every time you hit enter, that spacing is going to be a lot wider. But again, I don't play with that too often, but it is good to know what it could be, right? Okay, And then I use this stuff extensively, often the check marks and bulleting, however your different ways of bulleting would be, especially for kids, for checks boxes and things like that. When I have them accomplishing things, I use that often. And then numbering, of course, your different numbering methods, or alphabetizing, I guess, whichever system works best for you. Those buttons are there. And then decrease and increase indentation. I probably don't use that too much, but I definitely, and across clearing formatting, I might occasionally do that, especially if sometimes, I've created something complex and then for whatever reason it's not working and you can't tell what the coding is in there. I might highlight it and then just say clear formatting. That way the code gets cleaned up and then I can kind of begin again, but I don't use it very often. And then I use format options extensively. I am often doing things like, particularly drop shadow. I think it just makes things look nice. 7 and angle, often 50 is what I use, just to kind of give it a little drop shadow. And then notice my words have a drop shadow, just to make things look nice. You can do this kind of feature to a picture. You could do it to a text box or whatever you want. So you just click on it and then do drop shadow, and then I often have distance be 7 and angle 50, and sure enough my box now has a drop shadow here as well. Okay, is that did I do that well? Did I do that too fast? Everybody okay? Give that a try.
What you were saying, Henry, about the wave something moving, was it the format?
Sure. Like if I highlight this
Animate?
text, yeah, if I highlight this text and then I would hit that button called format text, and I think with that open, it might not be as easy to see here. Where did it go? My 3 little buttons. There it is, format options. So you click any picture, any text, anything, and you can click on format options and do some neat things with it. Okay. And so one of the ones I definitely like is the drop shadow. And yeah, drop shadow. It doesn't look like it changed anything, but from there, the distance, I usually have it at 7 and the angle is at 50 or about 50. I usually don't spend a lot of time working it out, but that essentially creates that effect. Another thing that I do a lot of in here is, this text wrapping. I'm often turning this to 0. I'll probably say that right now. I'm often text fitting, often turning these into 0, just to make things fit, but that's not a big deal right now. And turning this padding particularly into 0, because you want things to fit, not move around when they're near each other. So I'm often doing that. But that's a small thing right now. We'll probably run into it more when we're dealing with needing to do that in docs and things like that. But just be aware that you can format anything on this screen, and there's always an option to format, and then you just play with it, what the choices are essentially. And so that's probably some of the really big stuff. I somehow lost my bar there. There it is. And then I want to go through this menu bar essentially here. File. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I am often making a copy of my work. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, especially when I'm a big believer in sharing. So I'm often sending a link to my fellow teachers, and then they're making a copy of my work, and then they're editing it for their own purposes. So, and then they often send me stuff. So I'll open theirs and make a copy of theirs and put it in my drive, and then off we go. So that's the beauty of Google, is definitely sharing. I think it's probably, and I'm not sure what the culture would be in Dominica, and there's plenty of people in where I teach where they don't want to share, and that's fine. But I'm definitely one of those people who tends to just give away everything I do and make it their own. So And it's nice working in a culture with fellow teachers like that, so that, essentially it saves work for all of us, and then we're all, helping each other. Question, Jocelyn?
Yes, I was just wondering what's the difference between making a copy at this point and maybe just forwarding the link afterwards, after you're done with the presentation, and maybe sharing the link afterwards.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to, being an owner, essentially. If somebody has created something that I want to make my own, so that when I edit it, it's nobody can delete it on me or make changes to it that I'm not aware of, I will make a copy of it, and then put it in my drive where I know I'll find it again, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, I seldom use this tool, but it does work. Like if you're working in your PowerPoint and you want to send it to somebody, you can go straight to this function and then email that file directly. Of course, most often what I do is I just go directly to mail, and then I just attach it in it. But this is a quick shortcut. If you wanted to actually mail this document to somebody, you hit this button and you can put in a person's email address, a little message. And here's a nice feature though, is if you did not want to share the actual document, you just wanted them to be able to see it, you could convert it to a PDF, or even a PowerPoint or plain text. I am often sending things as PDFs, and which really means, I don't know what you're familiar with it, it's portable digital format. I use PDFs extensively. Essentially, if I don't want somebody to be able to change my work and I want it to be as is, then I will send it as a PDF, and that way they can't alter my work in any way. So it would literally send this PowerPoint as a PDF, so they can't make changes, okay, which is a nice little feature, okay? Or you can, of course, send yourself a copy so that you have a copy of that email. Not a feature I use very often, but definitely a neat one. Download, I use this very often, particularly this one, which is JPEG. You can download every slide in a PowerPoint you create as a Microsoft PowerPoint if you have that. I don't use Microsoft very often anymore, from time to time, but I don't even use an ODP document, but PDF often, plain text never. But a JPEG, anything you create on your slide, you can turn into a picture. Your whole entire slide can be turned into a picture. So if you can just begin imagining what you could do with your young students, whatever you create here, you can turn into a picture for them and then share with them, or maybe print off and then they do the work on paper. But that's definitely something I use extensively, and I'll show you why I do that later on. PNG is also a picture file. I'm often using JPEGs, but PNGs work as well. And then I hardly ever use this scalable vector graphic. It's a type of picture as well. But no, I hardly ever use that. Okay, does that make good sense? Make available offline. This might be a good tool for you guys. I tend not to use it very often, just because I do have online access wherever I tend to do my work, so I don't need anything offline. But perhaps students might, where they don't have good access, they could make this available, which basically makes a copy of this document on their actual Chromebook, so they can work on this when Wi-Fi is not available. Okay, so if you're having Wi-Fi issues, that might be helpful. Version history can be very helpful, particularly when you have students sharing documents. I certainly have some hooligans that like to mess with things, and then I can go back to previous versions of the document before they messed with it, and then it kind of starts fresh and we can move forward. The nice thing also about version history is it tells you who changed it. And so if students are like, oh, I didn't do it, well, you can look in the version history and then you could see who made those changes. So that's very helpful, fun little tool. Rename probably makes good sense, but you'd probably never press this. You'd probably just go on here and just rename it by clicking on it. Okay. And then move, that makes good sense. It's literally talking about where that file is stored on your Google Drive. You need to have very good Google Drive skills. I'll be spending a little bit of time on that and some of my tricks and ideas, and most of you probably already have those ideas, so nothing probably new there, but we will spend a little bit of time on there. You can certainly move files. That, by the way, is the same button as this shortcut up here, right? This little move button. I'm often hitting that one rather than going all the way, digging it into here. Add shortcut to Drive. If you're working collaboratively with another teacher, or your students are working collaboratively with one another, then they would use this shortcut button. And it basically makes it so that collaborative file is no longer in the shared folder. If I can jump back to our Google Drive here, this is the shared with me folder. And if I want something in my shared with me folder to essentially be in my drive, then I would hit that button and organize where I want that to be, essentially, if that makes good sense. All right. So yeah, I'm often using that button. Seldom use moves to trash. That's the beauty of it. I think, how big is our Google Drives? It doesn't say here, storage. I don't know about you guys, but my ministry account, Palliser, has an unlimited Google Drive size. Is that true for you guys too? I'm kind of new to the Dominican.
I think it might just be 15 GB.
15 gigabits? Only 15. Okay. 15 they were telling me how it was really important that I build everything I do in the ministry account, because some things work and some things don't. So I'm still in the process of figuring out the difference between the two. So 15 Gs, that's definitely limiting. For a guy like me who ends up teaching this for years and years, I think the last thing I checked, my ministry's Palliser, my Google Drive account is over 100 gigabits, which is crazy large. But if you are limited to 15 gigabits, then you probably definitely want to consider what you do and do not put on your account. And certainly another option for you might be to create your own, a free Google account. I've done that for myself. And with that free account, essentially, it gives you another 15 gigabits. And then if you put folder things into your Google Drive, you could share and link them back into your ministry account, if that makes sense. Anyway, you could certainly play with that if you had to massage size-wise. Has that ever been an issue for you guys? Have you guys ever created so much stuff that you end up, your drive ends up being too small? Has that ever been an issue?
No.
Maybe
Okay,
our
well.
personal drive.
Maybe in our personal drive.
Is 15. I don't know about the ministry one, because we don't
Yeah.
really know. They have not been really forthright on information about the ministry one. So we just got it because of the Google, because of the COVID stuff. So
Right.
people really don't go on there much.
Oh, okay. Oh my, well, in my world, I'm on it all the time, right? And so, anyway, that said, and yeah, you
Well,
gotta have.
I can speak personally. I use my government Google Drive 24/7 all the time. I've stopped putting school things on my personal email. All school things go on the school email now. So when I don't want parents messaging me at whatever hour of the day or getting notifications from parents via email, I just turn off the government email, and only my personal email is on.
Yes, I'm a big believer in that, especially I think as time moves on. I do everything on my ministry account too, because I want to be able to limit and control how people are able to contact me, or and there's always that choice too about when you share. If you're on your personal account, you don't have this limiting factor, right? Like here, this ministry sharing, you don't have that as a personal limiting opportunities. So I'm a big believer in doing everything in my ministry account. I'm just thinking of, if you do start running out of space over time, if you start doing what I'm doing and creating learning experiences for kids, you might find that 15 gigabits is too small. And then, so what I would recommend then is that you might go to your personal account. Some of the things like a video or content that you could link to it so that they can go and get it from there, but not actually have to, you know, what I mean, sharing data sizes essentially. Well, hopefully you don't have
Maybe
to
it's
get there.
maybe it's unlimited, because right now well, I know that Google, when you create stuff online using Google, it's unlimited storage. I think it's when you upload that you have a store. They actually check the storage. But my parents and my children mostly do things with WhatsApp. So
Okay.
we hardly, people in our school hardly go on the government's email. They have their personal emails that they have been using for years before the government one was created. So they are used to using their personal email.
Right.
That's what they use to communicate as staff, and also use WhatsApp.
Right. Oh, interesting. Even the ministry, like the ministry uses WhatsApp as well. Interesting. In our school, everything gets done through our Google ministry account. Us privately as teachers, we use WhatsApp, but there's no expectations around that from the ministry in regards to WhatsApp. But I think it definitely protects teachers if you just do all of your work school related inside the ministry account. Anyway, we will probably have that conversation more as we go. But thank you for helping me try to understand your context, that's for sure. Okay, where was I here? Publish to web. Oh, I will definitely show you this button. I use it all the time. Anything you create, essentially, when I give anything to students, I give it to them published. And so it will create a link for you. I'm often using just this link version. I do not say start slideshow as soon as the player load. I don't do that. Very few occasions do I do that. And then restart slideshow after the last slide. I guess essentially, maybe if you were doing grade 1 or younger students, kindergarten, perhaps you might have a slideshow that you want a kid to go through and just watch it as it cycles through. If that's what you wanted them to do, then you would hit, start slideshow, and then you can change how long every minute, how long it takes for it to flip through the slides, essentially, and then, restart slideshow so that it just cycles through. Okay. And then once you hit publish, of course, you'd probably want to restrict access. And this is the beauty of having a ministry account, is restrict access so the world doesn't get it, but just people within inside the Dominican, ministry would be able to get it. And then you hit publish and hit OK. And then it gives you that link, right? And what this is the link that I would make available for students in various ways. Anyway, so I recommend that. Embedding definitely means I hardly ever use this because I keep everything kind of within the Google Apps for Education. But if you wanted to put, this PowerPoint into a website, then this would probably be the way to do it, even though it's not what I do. Okay, so we will be using that extensively. Okay, I'll dive into that more extensively later. Okay. And then document details, not really that important. You can at least know how big the file is. Language, probably not too much of an issue. I never touch that. Page setup, I do touch this one a fair bit, particularly when I want my PowerPoints to look like a piece of paper. Okay, and I would just go into custom, and it's 8.5 by 11. Do try this. Once you know how to do this, you'll probably do this a fair bit. And notice this is now looking like a piece of paper. And so if I look at this, zoom out a little bit, I can now literally organize this like a piece of paper. So when I hit print, if you were to use it for that purpose, then you're going to, it'll print it like on a regular piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. I often do that. So it's a really nice feature to be able to do. Okay. So whichever one of these fits your purposes. Okay. This one's the standard one. They can get larger, 16 by 9 or 16 by 10. It really just depends on what you want to do, but most of the time I'm working in standard, or I'm using it as a piece of paper. That's what I tend to do. Okay. Any questions so far? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was going to ask, what is the difference between the SVG, the JPEG, and the PNG?
Okay, so this download function here, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So why do you choose the JPEG as opposed to the others?
You know, I think nowadays, you know, probably in the last 5 years or more, there's not really that much of a difference. Google will be able to use both. I think the history around it is who made that file format, who designed it essentially, ends up being who named it. I don't even know what PNG stands for, but it is a picture file. But JPEG is just a very common one. Whenever I use JPEG, I have no issues with wherever I use it digitally. So I tend to use that one most often. But I very rarely run into an issue with PNG. I've definitely get PNG files off the internet for various things, and it works too. So whichever one you're comfortable with will be fine. I hope that, did that answer your question?
Yeah. I know we use, well, most pictures I see and most things we deal with is JPEG, but I was just wondering if PNG is something like this outdated, or if it gives different problems based on the web version, on the web browser, or the type of software that we have. I was just maybe thinking that JPEG might be applicable to all of the different browsers and updates of the Microsoft and so on.
I
So
think
maybe that might be.
JPEG and PNG files are used extensively online as well. I suspect JPEGs are used more often than PNGs, but no, I run into both of them all the time. And anything Google, I'm fairly certain will use both. That's for sure. Yeah, probably PDF files, JPEGs, and PNGs. You're going to use those most by far. At least I do anyway. Okay, good question. Edit.
I think Shani's hand is
Oh,
up.
thank you. Thank you. Jump right in.
That was just to answer Carla's question. The JPEG is just a regular image with a solid background that cannot really be removed. It's kind of quite difficult to be removed. The PNG has an invisible background, so if you put it on a white image, then you will only see the picture itself and not the background of the picture. And the SVG is for when you have machines like the Cricut or a silhouette that has to cut out the image, then you don't have to remove the image when you put it into the Cricut machine. Otherwise, you're going to have to sit down on the program and erase the entire background before you can put it to cuts.
Thank you. You know more about it than I do. I appreciate that. Does that help, Carla?
Yeah, it sounds very technical.
I don't even know what a Cricut machine is, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
anyway, yes, there are definitely differences between them for sure. None that I tend to run into in the Google environment, for myself anyway. But thank you, Shanice. I really appreciate that. This stuff should be pretty straightforward. Copy, paste. Notice the keyboard shortcuts on the right-hand side. Wherever possible, I tend to use keyboard shortcuts just because it saves me time. But you know, I've been teaching with a teacher for 8 years, and this year I used a keyboard shortcut in front of her just to copy, and she's like, "What did you just do? What did you just do?" And I'm like, what do you mean? And she had never heard of copy and paste on the keyboard with Control C, Control X, and Control V for paste. I use them all the time. Anyway, so wherever possible, definitely Control A. I use that often. Select all, everything on the slide. Find and replace is helpful. I use that more with Google Sheets, but you can certainly use it to find things on a big document if you really wanted to. But I don't use it in this context very often at all. Anyway, it works simply, look, I don't have any words on here, but if you're looking for something, if you're looking for a word, whatever it is, it will look for the match essentially. Okay. And you can replace those as well. All right. So that's edit, pretty fast. View, I don't really do a whole lot here. You can present. I don't even use motion very often. Even as PowerPoints, it was a really cool thing to do over the years to, have things slide in and have neat changes in slides. And I guess there's value somewhere. I think students love that stuff when they're creating their own stuff. But in regards to the things that I build as a teacher, I tend to not put any motion in it anyway. I find it just a distraction from the learning. But you can certainly put it in there. There's a new update theme builder. I've never played with that. So that's a new one to me. Google must have thrown that in there recently. Grid view, I don't really use grid view very often.
Suggest I got a button now.
Say again?
Oh, nothing. I was talking to my mother. I just didn't realize my microphone was on.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Yeah, I don't really use grid view hardly at all. So I tend to just look at it this way. Kind of grid view is what's on the left-hand side, but it certainly allows you to see it in a different way. Zooming, show ruler, that's this little guy in the top here. I like to have that around. You can show grids. It helps you organize things. I hardly ever use that ever. So if you want to, you're welcome to. I find whenever you're moving things around and you're trying to match it, it grabs those lines and helps you space things out. So I tend not to use that at all. Snap to grid, snap to guide. I usually leave it at guides. I don't even play with that. Show speaker notes. That, of course, is down here. I don't use speaker notes extensively. In regards to doing this, I usually tend to write things on a separate piece of paper or digital document. But it's definitely here. I often might put a link or something related to this down here or a reminder for myself. So I do use it from time to time, but not very often. But feel free, everybody to their own. So that's speaker notes. But you can make them disappear essentially. I always just kind of leave it at the bottom here, out of the way. All right. Any questions about view, I guess? I know I'm trying to going a little fast, but I definitely want to give you a chance to jump in if you need to. Insert is where all the magic happens. I use insert extensively. I am always putting in images, either uploading them from my computer, searching them on the web, or from my drive. I seldom use photos. Keep in mind, everything you do, Google, including your email, your Google Drive, your photos, everything, all is contributed to your Google Drive size. If you were ever to start running out of Google Drive space, you might want to, reduce your emails or pictures, certainly videos. Videos are huge data hogs. So you might want to remove some of those things that are really, really large. But I don't really use photos extensively, just time to time. I most of the time just throw it right into my drive, or I just get it from the web, right? I do love this feature that this Explorer bar comes up on the right, and you can, literally look for things right from inside Google Slides. So if you're going to want to look for a picture for something, and the beauty of this, you can just click and drag it right in. And then resize it. I'm often putting borders around my pictures. I think they look nicer. I'm often quickly formatting it here, putting a shadow on it, just because I think it looks nice to kids visually. So these are things I just kind of do automatically really quickly. it gives it, you know, just an interesting look. And so I get very fast at that. Okay. Questions about that? Another neat feature here that I learned about recently that I tend to now use a fair bit is when you click on a picture and you want that picture to be sized, notice if you double click, you crop it. Are you guys familiar with cropping? And you can essentially change what view. That's too much ceiling there. I can get rid of the ceiling. And then now I've cropped it. That's cropping. But when you are choosing a picture, you can, this crop tool is right there, but you have a little drop down menu beside it. Okay. I really like this little tool because now you can put that picture inside a shape, for example, a circle, right? And I'm playing with this a fair bit these days in the things I create. So that, again, just to not do that too quickly, there's a little drop down menu beside the crop tool there. And then you can literally put this picture inside any of these shapes. Okay. And so that's a fun little tool to be able to play with. It's my new toy that I play with a lot. Okay. Did you guys get a chance to do that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going too fast again.
Can you talk about the guides in view? The guides are what are they?
Yeah, these guides
used
here,
for?
I hardly ever use these, but let's throw some in there. Notice in this guide here, I might need to make this a little bit smaller. Notice it put a quadrant guide in there. It just helps you to, I guess, graphically organize your page however you want to do it. Again, it's not something I use very often. I would just play with it. If you want extra guides, you can throw them in there. You might even be able to move them around. You know, I don't know. This is definitely
Okay.
you know what I mean? Definitely a tool that you know, some people might find really valuable. It's not something I tend to bring in. Now, keep in mind when you're doing these guides, I don't think they appear when you're presenting, right? Like the guides are not there.
Okay.
They're literally only there to help you space out what you're creating, right? Again, something that I don't use personally. Okay. So insert,
Yeah.
that was image. I'm often saving images to Drive, so I'm often doing both of those things a lot. Okay. And then of course, upload from your computer. I'm fairly certain all of you would have done that by now. Text box, I've played with that a fair bit. Definitely do a lot of things in text boxes all the time. Okay. And then audio, they do have this nice feature now where you can actually add audio. And you, of course, have to find the audio or create the audio. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I particularly usually have an extension here from the Chrome Web Store that allows me to click a button here and then create audio very quickly. I'll get into this one later. This is, I use this one more. I seldom do just audio. If I'm doing audio, I'll also do a video so they can see my face, and this helps you create a video that you can save to Google Drive, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But I do that kind of stuff a lot, video. Again, here's the video. You'll be probably doing this extensively if you haven't done it yet. You can find it right on YouTube. I am often just finding things on a different tab. So I'm often using by URL. And what I mean by that is if I'm looking for a fraction video, for example, doing this really quick, and I often just would choose the video tool. I might look through here and, oh, there I go. I found a video. Oh, sorry. Everything has a commercial, doesn't it? And then if I love this video, I did a little preview of it and snap through it. I would just quickly, you know, control copy the URL, and then I'll paste it in here. I tend to do it that way most often, but that's all just preference, you know. And then I would probably put a border around it. I'd quickly shade it, right? all the things I've already showed you how to do. When you get really fast at this stuff, it doesn't take very long to organize, right? And then reshape it and put it wherever you like. Okay, so I'm doing that kind of stuff all the time. Okay, questions about that? Hopefully I didn't do that too fast. Okay, so that's the video function. Of course, I often have videos in my Google Drive that I create personally. For example, the video I'm creating with this teaching session, you know, I'm often putting them into my drive and then going to grab them and put them in, that sort of thing. How long have we been going? 6:37, 8:30. You know, I think it's time for do you guys want a little bit of a break? How about we have a little 10, 15-minute timeout? And then,
Sure.
does that sound okay?
I'd welcome
Yes.
that.
Excellent. So right now for me, it's, what is it, 10:30 for you guys? 10:38? Do you guys want to meet back here at what, 10:50? Or does that sound fair, 10:50?
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Let's have a little break and I'll see you guys back here shortly. Okay.
Sure.
Hello, I'm not hearing anything anymore. I do not know if you can hear me. I probably lost connection or something.
We're having a short break.
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay then.
We'll be back at 10:50.
Thank you.
Just 4 more minutes. Anybody have pineapple to eat?
LOL.
You'll have to travel across.
Hello, everybody.
Hello?
I'll just make sure everybody's back here. I don't know, maybe you can raise your hand or something when you get back here, just so that I know you're here. I'll even put mine up just so that I don't want to take it. Was that enough time? If we want 20 minutes, I don't mind. Maybe even a half an hour. I don't know. Maybe the customs over there are a little bit different than mine, and that's fine. If you guys want more time for a break, I'd be okay with that too. Great. Okay, we're just waiting for Clifton and a few others.
I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good,
here.
good. Okay, everybody's here. Awesome. Okay. Where did I leave off here? I did get a text about bookmarks. Maybe I'll just do a quick little, just a reminder about the bookmarks. Everything about Google in my mind is about saving time, and it's supposed to make things easier, not harder. I guess initially I definitely had those feelings too, that things were harder, not easier at first. But once you start gaining some efficiencies, it definitely gets easier. But a bookmarks bar is a big piece of that. You know, I'm a big believer of folders within folders. In my ministry account, I literally have a few short little pictures here with no words, and then I have just folders that drop down. The entire length of my entire computer is all just folders that drop down, and then folders within folders within folders, so I can quickly find things. So definitely get good at that. Does anybody want me to review that? Because I did have one question about that, and I should make sure I have my WhatsApp up here as well. You know what, that's a good, creating those little tutorials actually do take a little bit of time, and I'm trying to build those as I go, but I certainly have many more to build, so I'll do what I can as I go. And I've been trying to, in the break, connect with my the students that are not in the class. I'm supposed to have 26 students, so hopefully. Did another student join in? I see I have 14 here. Did I miss somebody? Yeah, I will be posting the video of this. I am recording it, and I will be posting this on the website I've shared with you guys, so you can review it from there. Okay, for sure, I will do that, and especially for the 13 students who aren't here yet. TeacherTuber. I probably won't be using TeacherTube, but that is definitely an option that can work, especially when you're dealing with like space, Google Drive issues space-wise. It's definitely good to look up for other places to post your videos so you can link to them, YouTube, things like that, for sure. Okay. All right, picking up where we left off, inserting. Audio, we talked about. Video, we talked about. Shapes. I definitely use these all the time. Definitely play with these shapes for different purposes. I think you can even write in them. I think. No, yeah, even this one, you can even write inside these shapes, which is awesome. So, and you can change the color of them or whatever have you. So, depending on what you're doing with kids, I tend to do a lot of finding shapes online. I'm not, a big fan of all these shapes necessarily, so I'm often finding pictures online and pulling them in just to make things a little bit more interesting for kids. But this definitely works for everything that we're doing. Tables, I create tables all the time. And so, whatever method you have here for creating tables, maybe I should do this on a new slide. It's getting a little bit busy here. I often create tables. I suspect you will be doing the same thing. So, get good at quickly making tables and being able to write in them and organizing your stuff. And however you want to do that as well. Definitely use that a lot. And then charts, not as much. Definitely you can get charts from Google Sheets. That's kind of like Microsoft Excel. If you've ever used that, we will spend some time in that as it relates to keeping grades with students and things like that. It's definitely helpful in math. Certainly for our curriculum, we do some things with building charts and things like that. So I'll dive into that a little bit later. Okay. Diagrams, I don't tend to create very many diagrams, but you certainly can use them. They're kind of fancy, and you can click on them and of course drag them in as you want to, and then manipulate them and write on them depending on what you're trying to create. So it's kind of a neat tool if you definitely need that sort of a thing. Not something that I use very often, but it's definitely there for you. Okay, so that's the diagram one. And then word art, I haven't spent a lot of time with this one, but this can be a lot of fun for sure. You can change the font size or for whatever it is. You can change the color of it. I am often playing with things to try and make them look neat. I think you can even format options. You can, again, create that drop shadow effect and do all kinds of neat things. I think you can even change the background to be like semi-transparent, which is kind of a neat tool, playing with it, just making things look neat. So I enjoy that part of this. And if you, anyway, kind of get the idea. Word art allows you to do all kinds of neat things. So it's a fun little tool. You want to give it a little bit of a try? Play with it a little bit? Don't want to go too fast. That's definitely something to make your presentation for students look interesting. Okay, so I definitely think you should play with that one. Most often I'm actually just playing with different kinds of fonts, but word art is certainly a neat one. Maybe wait for a little bit of a prompt from you guys. Let me know it's good to move on.
Excuse me. So it is available in slides, but is it available in Word? Google Docs, I don't think.
I believe it is also available in Google Docs, yes.
Okay, let me check this. That will be on the insert format.
No, I don't see it there.
No.
But keep in mind, I think it's
like
creating a picture. Like I'm wondering if I click on it, Control Copy, and then I bring it into, yeah, you can, oh no, it just brings it in as text. You can see it there. I just copied and pasted it into here.
Yeah, that's what I miss about Microsoft.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it does a good job of it, that's for sure. So it doesn't seem to be in Google Docs. That's a little bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, very. I was trying to do it for my exams, for my tests and so on, and I was just overwhelmed. I'm not gonna get it to work.
But check this out. If what you could do is, like, now that I created it, you can turn it into a picture and use this. I'll show you this tool later, but you can just screen capture it, right? Like this, and it turns it into a picture, right? And I copy it, and then you go in here, and then you can paste it as a picture, right? And it looks the same. That's a little workaround if that's what you want to do.
Okay.
I did that real fast, sorry, but
yeah, I have. Which one do I have? I have Awesome Screenshot.
I use Awesome Screenshot all the time. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, you can just create it in here and then screenshot it and then copy it over and paste it in. That'll definitely work. Turns it into a picture.
Okay.
Okay. You guys good? You had a little fun with that? Can I move on, or I don't mind if you play a little longer?
I just had a quick question regarding the insertion of the photos. I noticed when I inserted my picture, it came along with the link. I'm not too sure why.
Okay.
And if there's a way of going around that.
You mean like the picture when you used Explorer? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think like the citation of it, I think, right? That's a good question. I don't think it happened to me, did it? So let's see here. Let's say I drag another one in here. So mine did not bring in the citation. Like, I'm in your ministry account, right? So shouldn't it do the same thing? Which is kind of strange.
Yeah, normally I don't see it, but I noticed for the picture I chose, it came along. So I'm just wondering whether there's.
It makes me wonder if it's what is the word for it? If the picture is owned, right? If it's owned by somebody, let's say.
Copyright.
Yeah, thank you, copyright. Yeah, there.
Okay.
If I looked it up here, images and tools, right? I can usage rights here if you choose Creative Commons license, that's something you can use for free. Now keep in mind, if you're selling any of your work, then the only pictures you'd be able to use is the Creative Commons license, right? I think if you're just presenting things to your students, at least in Canada, I'm not sure what the rules or the laws would be in Dominica, but in Canada, as long as I'm not selling my stuff, I pretty much have a lot of leeway as to how I just present to my students. But if I was to sell anything I did, I would have to use only Creative Commons pictures and things like that, right? If that makes sense. So I'm wondering if the picture you pulled in was of a commercial license, and then it automatically pulls over, the citation of it because they own it. You know what I mean?
Okay, possibly. All right.
That might be it. I'm not 100% sure, but it doesn't do it for me, and I'm not sure why it's different. So okay. So that's word art. I definitely recommend playing with that and using it a lot. Line tools, pretty straightforward. I don't use them a whole lot, but there's definitely uses for that, especially for students to work on stuff you want them to do. Think of what your curriculum might be and how you might have students be able to scribble, for example, or make shapes, whatever you want them to do. It's nice that it's there as an option. And I certainly use the arrow tool. I'm often pointing at arrows and changing the colors to red, or, bigger arrows, thicker lines, you name it. I do all kinds of stuff with lines like this. And so it's just nice to be able to have that ability to create that. Okay. I don't think I talked about backgrounds there. It's kind of jumping at me right now. Maybe it's because I chose in there and it changed the background there. But if we go jump backwards a little bit, here is that shape tool and image tool that we've kind of jumped at, creating these images. These are the arrows, scribble. I guess it's in the insert way down here. Most of us would probably just jump right here to grab it real quick, which is what I tend to do. Background, I use this one extensively, often changing colors of backgrounds. Or I tend not to do this very often, but I do it when I'm going to have you guys create a Bitmoji classroom for me later on, and then I do use this tool. So sometimes I put pictures in the background, but most of the time I don't. Most of the time it's just a picture on top. Might change the color of the background. And while I'm thinking about it, you guys should Google Slide Carnival. There it is, Slides Carnival. And maybe I'll throw this link into here. I am a big fan of Slides Carnival. They have all kinds of beautiful, amazing backgrounds that are interesting for kids. You can basically get a free PowerPoint version of it. Notice here, this one, use as Google Slide theme, right? So they give you this, hit copy, and it will give you this as a theme, right? I've hit copy here a few times. There we go. It's taking a little bit of time. But then you automatically have a PowerPoint that has this theme that you could like with your students and that sort of thing, bringing a lot of interest, having a lot of different kind of slide types, that you can work with here. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. I'm a big fan of Slide Carnival. If you open that up, I think you should bookmark it on your bookmarks bar, throw it in there so that you can easily find it in the future. So yeah, this is Slide Carnival. It's awesome. Love it. Okay, everything's free. I'm a big believer in free. Maybe we all are. Yeah, they don't really.
So Henry, excuse me. I'm attempting to apply a shape to an inserting text. Could you go over that for me, please?
So you want to create a ship and put text in the ship? Did I hear that correctly?
I'm inserting a text which I want to reshape. I add a shape to it. Is that possible?
I'm not
Like
sure if I'm.
make it oval. Make the text that I'm inserting oval or something like that. What do I do?
So you want to put text on top of a picture? Is that what you're thinking of?
No, it's a slide.
I think you just have to go to
To insert
what is
text.
it? Format? No, insert, and then you click the crop thingy. Is that?
Okay, are you referring to the picture and the shape?
Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
a shape.
so yeah, let me just go to this one here so that I have. So yeah, so if this is my picture and I wanted to change the shape of the picture, is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm inserting a text. Like I insert the text, say for computer aided drafting, for example. Okay, I select the text and I want to change that rectangular shape to,
You have to click the
something
text.
else.
Yeah, definitely click the text.
Yes, I did.
And then the crop thing.
The crop? No, man, it's not
I'm
crop.
not sure if with text you're not
The
going to
drop
be able
down
to.
arrow. Or if you click it.
It's not in format options.
Insert, I think. Insert.
Insert.
Yes, insert shape.
It's insert.
I think with text you're not going to be able to.
No, I'm not.
You're not going to be able to make text into shapes, right? Because
Okay.
you're always dealing with text boxes, right? Like,
yes.
So you're not going to be able to do it with just text.
Okay. All right.
Right? Because every text is actually in a text box, and you might be able to mess with the box, like what kind of thing you're writing in, but the actual text itself you won't be able to.
All right.
I know that you can put text in a shape. You can put a shape and then write in the box, in the shape. For example, you can get a heart shape.
You would have to go on shapes.
I'm using Word Art.
Yeah, and if
I'm applying the tool of Word Art, the Word Art tool.
Yeah, maybe. Good question. Not everything you want to do is that you're able to do necessarily. It's a good question. I don't think you can do that. I'm not aware of that anyway.
Understood.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Understood.
I tend to do a lot of writing on top of things and layering, that sort of thing, right? Like, like if you right click on this picture and you want it to be, you know, behind things, you could hit this. I just right click on it, right? Hit order, and then send to back, right? And then now notice my graph or my table here is actually in the front. If I fill it in with a color, right? And then I, you know, bring it to the front, then, you know, ordering it, layering it at different methods. So that's how I tend to do it, put words on top of things, and if that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
I do think Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint, like the programs you pay for, would have a lot more potential for that kind of thing, even though I'm not using those anymore. Right? I have it on my computer and I never use it. So anyway, because this doesn't make it available for kids, right? So anywho, should I move on? All right, comments make good sense. New slide numbers. You could click this button here, and then every slide you have, you know, will essentially have a page number on it. So maybe that's valuable. I tend not to use it very often, but it's a nice little tool if you want to have that. And then I think I did everything in there. Special characters, not too often. Animations, we can talk about that in a little bit. Again, students tend to like that, but as a teacher, I tend to not use that at all. Formatting. So you can, a lot of these things are actually on your bar in shortcuts. So, you know, but superscript and subscript, you know, aren't. So you just know that you can. I sometimes use strikeout when I'm dealing with teachers. Might strike out words, but not with students very often. You know, size, color, highlighting, all that capitalization, uppercase, lowercase. all pretty straightforward stuff. Alignment, this is actually right on the bar over here, so you might not ever go here. This is on the bar right there. Bulleting, so a lot of this stuff, insert rows. I tend to actually just right click on tables a lot, and that brings this whole choice up to insert or delete or whatever, that sort of thing. I just right click on everything all the time, which will bring up this same kind of stuff. This is also on the title bar there. Clear formatting, don't use it very often because I'm most of the time building my own stuff, but you know, if I had some things that was glitching for whatever reason, I might highlight it and hit clear formatting so it's not so complicated, and then I start over fresh, because some of that coding in the background can certainly be a messy at times. This is on your title bar, so you don't use that very often. And then format options, everything has a format option, right? So you can always hit format option there, click anything, and format option will come up as a choice, and it becomes this bar on the right hand side. And usually anything that you use a lot tends to be something that ends up being a shortcut on the bar. Crop images, I do that all the time, so of course there's that shortcut on the bar. You can always reset an image. If you start messing with it, you can always reset it. That's always a nice little tool to know that it's there. And of course it's also a button on the bar here. All right, what else? Any questions about the format tab? I went pretty fast. Slides, new slides, duplicate slides. I'm often just right-clicking on the slide on the left-hand side to duplicate them. I'm often doing that, or you can delete them. But there's definitely here too. Change backgrounds. Layouts, remember you have that choice for layouts right up here with this plus bar as well. And delete, skip, move. I would never move them this way. It does tell you what those keyboard shortcuts are. I tend to not use keyboard shortcuts in this capacity. I just click and drag when I want to move them around. That seems far easier to me. You know, transitions. I tend to not do transitions hardly at all, if ever. But you can definitely time out changing your slides here. Kids love playing with this stuff, and often I find it just distracts from the learning. When I want a slide to come up, I want the whole slide to come up and just talk about it, that sort of thing. Anyway, but there you can certainly play with that. And then what else we have here? And then edit theme. This is, I guess, a new update. I've never played with this one before. I tend to just grab themes and import themes. So notice when I hit themes here, it's this button here on the bar as well. I tend to import themes a lot in my, my Palace or Ministry account. It'll basically find any PowerPoint you've created. Clearly, I've created a few already for this course, and you can just click a theme that you like from a different one, and it'll import it. So now that'll be my theme for this one as well. So I use that function a fair bit. I find the ones that Google gives are actually pretty straightforward and helpful. Some I never use, and some I use a lot. So whatever you like there. Any questions about slides there? Okay, arrangement. I don't use this arrangement drop-down menu. I tend to just click on things and then right-click, and these are all the things I can do with that item I'm choosing. So you can, do all kinds of things through here. So I order, for example, is on that, and align and distribute and center, rotate. All those things are usually done just, by grabbing things. So it's not, I don't spend any time in there. Tools here, spelling. Spelling is helpful for sure. Use that a lot. I also use Grammarly. Are you guys familiar with Grammarly? Maybe I'll write that down. We'll talk about Grammarly later, but that's an extension add-on that's free, and it'll underline anything and everywhere when something isn't spelled correctly, and that I find very helpful. because I'm probably not the best speller in the world. That said, so nice feature that at least comes, and you know, it'll underline your errors for you. I prefer to have it underlined so I have to correct my own errors. Explore is a wonderful tool. You can do a lot of things here. Certainly searching the web, bringing it in, making it easy is a very good tool. I'm not sure if I've ever played with linked objects, but for me, everything is linked. So I'm not sure if what happens with that particular choice. I'd probably have to link something before it tells me what that is. Dictionary, straightforward. Question and answer history. I think this is related to when you're actually doing a presentation and you allow them to ask questions as you're doing the presentation, which I'm not doing right now. I seldom do this tool, especially with kids. So I just talk to them, right? So not something I do very often. Voice type speaker notes. Google will type out what you say if you want them to. I don't use that tool. There are preferences here, which might be good to know. Do you want to automatically capitalize words? I turn yes to most everything. I use smart quotes, automatically detect links. These are probably automatically set for you guys. You could play with custom auto fit preferences. I tend to not. Just get good at organizing it your own way, but you can. And I think this is about shrinking text to overflow, resize the shape if you just move it. Play with that. If you like that, use it. It can be helpful, that's for sure. Substitutions, I tend to not play with this, but it can be helpful, right? For example, like if you type 1/2, it'll turn it into automatically, and Google will turn it into these kind of substitutions. So it's helpful to know. And of course, if you don't like something like that happening, you can also undo it. I use this one all the time. -- greater than sign turns it into an arrow. I do that all the time. So whatever works for you. So I think you can even create some here if you wanted to. But for example, right at the top here, replace this with this if you had some shortcuts that you wanted to create. I'm not sure off the top of my head what that would be right now, but you can. Any questions? I tend not to use a script editor. I'm not a programmer. Accessibility settings. I'm not sure if this would be required. Maybe if, I guess you were, it's not something I use. Braille might be something. There's Braille support. I haven't played with these, to be honest. Turn on screen magnifier support. That might actually help me sometimes, but it's not something I actually play with. So it might be of value to you in your teaching. So play with it. If it helps you, great. Okay. Hey, Virginia, glad you're back. Okay. All right. And then activity dashboard. Not something I really play with a lot. But if you want to, look through this kind of stuff to see where it has value, maybe viewer trends might be of value if you wanted to see if your students were actually going to your, your PowerPoint or your PowerPoint slide. I tend to use the words interchangeably, but I mean a Google slide. Are they actually viewing it? You guys here have certainly started viewing, right? Anyway. All right. And that's that. Not something you're going to use a whole lot of. But add-ons, I use a lot of. So these are automatically, I think. Do you guys have any automatic add-ons? I may have put these in here myself. Certainly Pear Deck, you guys will want this one. Go into Get Add-ons and then find Pear Deck. There is a teacher free version of this. I already have it installed, so it says it is, but find Pear Deck, install it. You will want to play with this one a little bit with your students, depending on, and I'll dive into that a little bit later. And I'll show you and demo it a little bit later on. We're running out a little bit of time today, so it'll be another day. So there's a lot of things that you can do with add-ons. Okay, and you can of course manage those add-ons and delete them if you wanted to, but usually that's not a problem. I think I've covered it all. Did I miss anything? If I was to highlight something that I think is a really big deal, it's definitely that publish to web. I use that extensively. Whenever my students are going to anything I presented, they're always looking at the publish to web version of it. Because it loads a lot easier, a lot more easily, if that's better English. And especially if my PowerPoints are long, and then notice how quickly it loads up. It's just clean, fresh. There's no editing around the sides. And that way when they're going through my stuff, it's just quick, easy for them and controlling what they see, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. We'll get rid of that. Any questions about anything I've talked about at all?
Could you just go over the publish to web again, please?
Sure. It's right under File, and then you go down almost to the bottom, Publish to Web, right there. Okay. And the link button is right there. I don't embed hardly at all. But the link buttons here, I tend to not click any of these buttons. That way it doesn't start pushing through the PowerPoint for them. They're like, oh, what's going on? Right? I just leave those off. And then I usually restrict access to my ministry. And then just grab this link, Control Copy, and then I would put this into my interactive Google Doc, HyperDoc, or my Bitmoji Classroom, or wherever I wanted to present this information. Usually I would embed it into some text or or a picture, or I'd put it right into Google Classroom as a link so they can easily access it, whichever method. Yeah, I use this a lot. It has changed how I teach over the last couple of years, for sure. All right. Any other questions about any of this stuff? And through the work time, I'm going to be available to you to answer any of your questions. So how about I just jump to that, and then we can. I need to close some of my slides. Here we are. So I probably went through almost every one of those Google Slides. Check. This is again that you know, what do they call it? The Google Certified Teacher Level 1. I went through every single one of those. If you could do all of that, you could easily pass the Google Slides Level 1. One of these days, I will actually do the test as well and just get it over with. Okay, so I'm going to go, there's only 2 slides left. This will be our comeback at 11:30. But I'm going to, let's jump to the Google Classroom, and I will give you the assignment, our day 1 assignment. Talk through it here. Now, I think you guys should be able to get it done in our class today. I'm going to make it due for tomorrow. Again, I am a little bit flexible. Like, for example, we got 13 people here who hopefully will get into our course, be able to watch this video and still be able to get my assignments done. But here essentially is our assignment. I've provided a few things for you. This is just our website. It doesn't look like a website, but this is actually just a link to the website I shared with you earlier. This is the PowerPoint or the Google slide that I shared with you. And then this is, let me explain the assignment now. Okay, so let's get to know each other by sharing some photos, sound, videos, or text about ourselves in a shared Google Slides presentation. You guys know what Google Slides is at this point. We will make this presentation together, first collaborating in pairs. I'll have you guys decide if you want to do it by yourself. I'm okay with that too. I was thinking too, it might be a good idea that if you create this from the point of view of your student body, that you are getting who will be your students next year, and go, this will be an introduction to them, to you, not just to us. So feel free to, if you have grade 1 students, well, create this for grade 1 students, you know, or grade 7 or 6 or whatever grade you teach. But you're essentially creating a PowerPoint that will represent you, essentially. But you can do it in pairs if you want to. It's fine with me, or groups of 3, frankly. But do not feel you have to go overboard with details or special effects, but please have fun, challenge yourself to do something new in the slides today. So just create an interesting Google slide that your students would like, that basically is talking about who you are and something about you, so your students get to know you a little bit better. And so I have created this assignment right here to try and break it down. Okay, so part 1 is the collaboration. Find a partner and join your own Google Meet together, because you guys need to know how to use these tools as well. So let's talk about that briefly. Have you guys created Google Meets before? Like, you just go to a new tab and go Google Meet?
Yes.
Yes, awesome.
No.
So create your own Google Meet, and then share that Meet with each other so that you can get into your own Google Meet together, essentially, is the idea. And then if you have any trouble doing that, let me know. And then, the nice thing is you get to work through this together. I will keep this Meet live, and I will be in this Meet. And so if you have any questions or want any help, you can just jump right back into this Meet, and I'll be here to help you. And then start working through creating content, introducing yourself to your students, essentially. So, some of the things, these are just ideas. By no means are this extensive, but what's your names and where do you teach? What's your school? Pictures. Share something you love about your culture, perhaps. Share a beautiful place in your country. Maybe some music you like, food, maybe your anthem. I would like you to put a video in there if you could, and that could just be from Google. You don't have to invent it or create it. We'll deal with that a little bit later. And essentially create an introduce yourself video or Google slide to your students for next year. Okay? Any questions about what I'm asking you to do? The second part of that here is you're creating your own Google slide there. I do want you to link your Google slide assignment into this assignment, but I do want you to copy and paste what you create into this document, okay? And what that might mean is, for example, I've been creating this. Maybe all you have to do is highlight, use your control, I think it's control, where I could control copy those 2 slides, jump back in here, and then you can literally just paste them in. That's all I'm really asking you to do, is paste them in here so that they're all in one presentation, so that I can open that up tomorrow and we can just move through these relatively quickly, if that makes sense. Okay? Any questions about what I'm asking you to do?
What did you say we have to do for next year for our children that we could use for next year?
Yes, this assignment, I want you to essentially create a Google slide. So you're going to have to start from scratch. And then you're just creating a presentation of yourself that you might start with on the first day with your students, if you were able to present this to them. Does that make sense? And it's going to represent you. And for example, for even myself, I tend to do things like even how I started this course is like some of your classroom norms might be there, things you want them to know on the first day, definitely things about you, and things you care about and how you want your class to go, kind of an introductory PowerPoint or Google Slides, rather. I usually tend to use those names interchangeably. But a Google slide that introduces yourself to your students. Okay, does that make sense? Anyway, this is your work time. Again, I will stay in here. I'll stop recording, but I will stay in here, and I think this probably gives you about what we go till 10:30, I think. Is that right? Another hour. I kind of went a lot longer than I wanted to,
11:31 now.
Is it 11:31 now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our end time. Okay, I took all of your time. Sorry, I meant to have some work time here. Still getting used to the time change. But don't feel like you have to do this all night. If you guys need more time, I will be, talk to me about it. I'll definitely be willing to have more time. I'm hoping that we can walk into this tomorrow and be ready to go. But if that's, I know we all have families. I've got 3 kids. What's realistic? Why don't you guys tell me right now? What's realistic? Should I give you guys some work time on this tomorrow? Or would it be possible to have this ready for tomorrow?
Well, our end time is 12:30, so we have some time. So I think that we should be able to use the time that we have left to work on this.
Okay.
That's what's my take.
Henry, the document in the Google Classroom, you did not share it with all government emails, so we cannot access it.
Which one?
It is the one that's taking us back to the site. The link. It's
really?
Yes, it's not shared with everyone, so we can't access it.
Okay, I thought I dealt with this earlier. Let's see here.
The site, but the document itself isn't.
Really? As soon as you throw it into Google Classroom, it should appear for all of you as soon as you hit submit. So you mean the Google site one?
Yes, the document on Google site itself is not accessible to us.
Oh, okay. On day 1?
Yes.
So you're referring to this one?
Go down still. Down, right. This, the one on the right, on my right. Right, yes.
Oh, this one here?
Yes.
Okay, the course info. Okay, there's not much information on there for you guys right now, but I will figure that out, okay? I will find out why that's not working, okay? Anyway, you guys go ahead and start working on this. I'm going to give you the next hour for sure. I think we were going until, was now the end time? Because I'm getting mixed up by the time change. Was it till 11:30? Yeah, you guys are 11:30, right?
I think it's 12:30.
It says 12:30.
12:30. 8:30 to 12:30.
12:30. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's excellent. That gives me at least an hour to work with you guys. So feel free to get started, and I'll hang out here and help you as needed for the next hour. Hopefully we can get it done in an hour. That'd be great. Okay.
Hey, Henry.
Okay.
Hey, Clifton.
Could you give me a quick review of setting up Google Meet, please?
Sure. Absolutely.
One more question, Henry, before I start.
Sure.